All right, good evening to everyone who is in attendance for this 2021 CVRD budget virtual public meeting. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge that everyone here is joining from across the traditional unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. I want to start by introducing all of our panelists that we have on this meeting this evening. My name is Chris Schumacher. I'm the Manager of Communications and Engagement at the Cowichan Valley Regional District. I'll be playing the role of host this evening. We have with us Talitha Saldera, who is our Assistant Manager of Finance, and will be delivering the presentation for the budget specific to areas D and E, the City of Duncan and the Municipality of North Cowichan. We also have with us our CAO, Brian Carruthers, our General Manager of Corporate Services, Mark Heber, and our Chief Financial Officer and Manager of Finance, Natalie Winger. We have a number of our board of our directors in attendance. In no particular order here, we have Chair Stone from the town of Ladysmith. We have Director Nicholson from Area E, Director Toporowski representing North Cowichan, Director Morrison from Area F, Director Martman from Area H, Director Kuhn from Area I, Director Yanni DiNardo from Area D, Director Wilson from Area C, and that rounds it out. A couple housekeeping things for our attendees here, and I'm talking to you, Susan, is if you've never been into a WebEx event before, on your right-hand side, you'll see there's a chat function that you can use to speak to everyone in the meeting or select people if you wish at any point. You can also use the Q&A function to pose a question at any point during the presentation. We'll wait to field questions until after Talitha gets through delivering her presentation, though, but feel free to, anything that comes to mind, to start populating that. And with that, I will turn things over. Oh, the last thing I want to remind our panelists of is to mute your microphones during the presentation and when you're not speaking, so we have as little background noise as possible. With that, Talitha, I will hand over the duties to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you to our few attendees. I see we do have 2 people here now, so I'm very excited. This is more than we had last year when we gave this presentation in person. So I'm going to give you a presentation on our budget, which will take approximately 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll have tons of time for questions of any of the panelists. So I'm just going to share my screen with you.
Talitha, I was neglect to mention that we do also have Mayor Staples from the City of Duncan joining us. She is currently an attendee, was having issues joining as a panelist, but she is present for this meeting.
Thank you very much, Chris. All right, so let's begin our presentation of the 2021 budget overview. So at the Cowichan Valley Regional District, as I'm sure all of you know, we have 4 municipalities and 9 electoral areas, and in 2021, we have 178 services that we provide. There are a number of competing challenges and expectations that the board must balance when they're setting the 2021 budget, including how to meet the needs of the public under increasing financial constraints, increased downloading from other levels of government, resulting in increasing pressure to provide additional services, aging infrastructure and increasing construction costs that exceed the consumer price index, legislative changes and higher requirements for standards of care that put increasing cost pressures on existing services, and increasing non-controllable expenditures such as hydro and insurance. The board must consider all of these items when setting direction for the 2021 budget. The CVRD provides a whole variety of services to different partners, and therefore the impact of our budgeting process on each electoral area or municipality is different. For example, the cost for the average home in electoral area D, which participates in 40 functions, is $1,315.25. But the average home in Duncan, which participates in 23 functions, is $495.98. And in Area D, there are also 6 specified area services encompassing a whole variety of services such as street lighting, drainage, and fire protection. To complicate matters further, some services are provided directly by the CVRD, others in partnership with organizations, and some take the form of grants to organizations that provide the services to that area. The CVRD does not provide education, sidewalks, curbs and gutters and roads, policing, healthcare, or highways. These are provincial or in some cases municipal, such as policing and roads in North Cowichan and roads in the city of Duncan. For most of our services, taxation is allocated based on assessed value. Each member municipality and electoral area share is calculated based on assessed values that are provided by BC Assessment. And within this, the distribution between the property classes is determined using a fixed ratio that is mandated under provincial legislation. For 2020, requisition or property taxation, which we call requisition, represented almost 43% of the total budget. The funding for each service is determined in the establishment bylaw for that service. And with so many services, there's a wide variety of funding mixes used. We can, however, broadly categorize the main types of service funding as regional, electoral area, sub-regional, and specified area. Regional services are funded based on assessment for all 13 jurisdictions within the regional district and are typically services that benefit the entire region, such as solid waste management or emergency 911. Electoral area services are specific to the rural areas only and are therefore shared by all participating electoral areas on an assessment basis with no municipal funding participation. An example of this is community planning, where the CVRD performs this function for the electoral areas, but not for the municipalities. And the X on our chart indicates that the entire area participates, while the O is just a portion of that area. And this chart is available on the CVRD's website. Many of our services are sub-regional in nature, in that they provide a service for certain areas within the CVRD, and funding is shared by those participating partners, normally on an assessment basis. An example of this would be the Cowichan Community Centre. Specified areas are set up to fund services that are provided to a number of properties that do not represent the entire electoral area and are different in that these functions are established in response to a petition by the property owners to provide the service. A service area is established to encompass the properties that receive that service, such as street lighting services. And while taxation is a major component of the CVRD's revenue base, the CVRD has a few other revenue streams. Non-taxation revenue streams that are considered as part of the budget process would include user fees and charges, such as for curbside garbage and recycling pickup and our utility functions. Permits and licensing fees, such as building permits and subdivision fees. Reserve funds are used, and the CVRD accumulates operating reserves to protect against variances and unexpected expenditures from year to year, and capital reserves for its long-term assets and asset management needs. We use grants where possible. We fund projects through grants, and also through the proceeds of borrowing. In the CVRD, borrowing can only be used for capital purposes. But the CVRD has, in recent years, taken advantage of very low interest rates to borrow short-term in order to fund capital purchases. We also borrow longer-term for larger capital projects. As mentioned, services funded with other revenue sources include our community health network, the municipal MFA debt function, curbside garbage and recycling discussed previously, our sewer and water services, and some of our street lighting and drainage services. The current budget approach at CVRD is incremental, meaning that activities and staffing levels are considered as core and used as a baseline for the upcoming budget. This approach uses core expenditures as the basis for the preparation of the draft budget, with requests to changes to existing service levels being treated as supplemental requests to the commissions and committees for their consideration. Core expenditures are defined as those that are required to maintain the current service levels of staffing, services, and capital, including reallocations of resources within operational budgets but do not require an increase to requisition. Supplemental requests for the purposes of budgeting are defined as items that are additions to current staffing and/or service levels, and any capital that requires an increase to requisition or user fees. This includes purchases or construction of new capital, the addition of part or full-time staffing positions, and changes to programs or services requiring increases to user fees or requisition. Staff was directed to target a 0% requisition increase for 2021. In some services, such as our solid waste or Vancouver Island Regional Library, this was not possible due to existing service contracts. An exemption from the 0% mandate was provided for these services. Any increases above the 0%, other than those for the services that were exempted, would require a business case to be presented for the board's consideration. So far, we've already had a few budget meetings in 2020, and the board has considered some of the supplemental requests. After each meeting, the CVRD budget website was updated to reflect the decisions that were made at each meeting. And with the decisions that have been made to date, the budget includes a requisition increase of 1.95%. The remaining supplemental requests will be considered at a meeting on January 13th. And if all of these items are also approved, then the requisition increase would be 2.31% for the year. The board will then hold a meeting on January 25th and 26th to review all the decisions that have been made and propose any further changes to the budget before the financial plan bylaw is brought forward for adoption in February. The increase to requisition is discussed as a total number, that total 1.95%. However, as we mentioned previously, the effects on the individual properties varies based on a number of factors, including property assessment and property location. Only the participants in a service area contribute to the cost of providing those services. So this slide shows the impacts on each municipality and electoral area of the proposed 2021 budget, as well as the impact if all supplemental requests and business cases are approved, so the 2.31%. But I must say that this is based on the 2020 revised assessment roll, because the 2021 roll was just released the other day, so we haven't redone our calculations yet. So what does this mean for people in area D, E, the city of Duncan, and the municipality of North Cowichan? In these areas, the largest changes are for the solid waste function, followed by an increase to the regional parkland function. The electoral areas will also have an increase in the Vancouver Island Regional Library. And these increases are offset somewhat by a decrease in the liquid waste management plan function, and in the electoral area services, offset by a decrease in the electoral area services function. In electoral area D specifically, the average home would see an increase of $17.56. And so this chart, which is available on the CVRD's website, shows how the tax requisition is broken down by each function for the jurisdiction. And there's one for every area. So area D's increase is potentially $17.56. And in area E, an average home would see an increase of $14.81. This is based on the 1.95% increase. In the city of Duncan, the increase would equal $9.05. And then in the north end of North Cowichan, it would be $15.13. And in the south end, $11.57. And these vary in the various areas of North Cowichan based on the services that people within those areas participate in. More information about our budget and about the change to these services can be found on the CVRD's draft budget website. We have quite a number of detailed schedules available on our website, providing total budget information, as well as detailed financial information on each of the services that we provide. The majority of the schedules look at changes in property taxation. Parcel tax information and user fee information is also provided in separate schedules. So I'll walk you through those schedules just so you know where you can find the information. Schedule A, changes in tax requisition, shows only the services that have a change and details the amount of the change for that service. Down at the bottom, and I know it's small, but you can see it when you look on our website in greater detail. So down at the bottom is that total difference between general tax requisition for 2020 and that for 2021. This does not include the change for local area services, which affect only specially defined areas. Our Schedule B changes in tax requisition by jurisdiction. This change on this schedule, the change due to other jurisdiction column reflects the increase in the library requisition. So that's why it's only for the electoral areas. Also down at the bottom, you can see the increase in the local service area taxes, such as the fire service areas. Schedule C, shows the change in requisition going back to 2014. And you'll notice that even if all of the other supplemental requests are approved, the 2.31% proposed would still be the smallest requisition increase we've had since 2014. Schedule D has a page for each jurisdiction. It lists only the services that the area participates in and shows the change for that service. Again, down at the bottom of that schedule, it shows the local service areas, taxes applicable for that jurisdiction, and also shows the change in those. Schedule E, which we looked at a little bit previously, has a page for each jurisdiction and shows the impact on an average home in each electoral area and municipality. Schedule F is a summary of our short and long-term debt. The schedule on our website has not yet been updated for 2020, as we're currently doing our year-end processes, and we haven't finished all of our capital funding for the year. There's still some projects which we need to finish up. So this schedule will be updated probably closer to the end of January as we complete our year-end processes. And similar to Schedule F, our Schedule G has not yet been updated for 2020. As we work on finishing our year-end processes, we will make sure that we've properly funded all of our capital projects, and then we can update this schedule. Schedule G has a portion for operating and a portion for capital reserves. This is the operating portion, and again, not updated yet because 2020 transactions are not yet completed. Schedule H shows our assessment by jurisdiction for 3 years. As I mentioned previously, the 2021 completed roll was just released. And so all of the budget calculations so far have been using the 2020 revised assessment roll. The 2021 roll, I should note, will be released by the revised roll will be released by March 31st. Our Schedule I shows how the requisition for an area is split between the property classes. This example on this slide is for Area A, but you can see in Area A that 84.5% of the requisition is paid for by the residential properties and 13.4% by business. This just shows you the breakdown, and there's one for every area. Schedule J shows the cost for a $100,000 home and shows the portion of total assessment represented by each area. Then we have the parcel taxes for our utilities and Schedule K, and the user fees on Schedule L. It's important to note that an increase in parcel taxes or user fees for a service does not necessarily mean an increase to the property owner. In many cases, new properties have been added to the service areas, so it increases the total amount that we collect without having an impact on individual properties. The amounts shown in the schedules are the totals, not the amount for an individual property. So these are the detailed schedules that are available on our website. We also have more specific detail on our individual services. For each service that we provide, there's a summary sheet. It gives a description of the service, lists the amount that's proposed to be requisitioned for 2021, the maximum amount that may be requisitioned if applicable, and shows the split between the participating areas. This is followed by the proposed 5-year plan for the function. And lastly is the budget detail from our accounting software. And it actually shows every expense from 2018 and 2019. It shows the budget for 2020 and the proposed budget for 2021. All of this information is available on our website to provide as much information as possible to you and to anyone else who uses our website. And that is the handy overview of the budget for 2021.
Thank you, Talitha. At this point, I will now open it up for questions from our attendees that can be posed to both staff and elected officials who are in the meeting. Given the small number of attendees that we have, I'm going to unmute each attendee and provide them the opportunity to ask a question or pose a comment in their own words and voice. So I'll start with Laurel Circle. Laurel, do you have a question or a comment?
No, I'm new to all this, so I'm just trying to figure out what is going on. But I've been working with Allison a bit. I'm actively interested in parks, so we're going to have our parks meeting shortly. But I don't have any specific questions right now. It's just very confusing for a newcomer. That's all.
Thank you, Laurel. I'll move on to Lawrence. Lawrence, do you have a question or a comment?
No, I don't have a question specifically. It's my first time just listening in, just getting a feel of the budget process, interested in all of the things that are area funds, and yeah, just getting familiar with it. So no specific question.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. And Susan Kaufman, do you have a question or comment?
Hi, I would just like to say thank you to Ms. Saldera for her presentation. It was informative, and I can now go and look at this stuff online. I just wanted to mention, because I saw it on some of the community surveys about the parks, and parks are really important for us, especially right now. There's a lot of people that are enjoying the outdoors because there's limited other organized facilities available. So I just hope that the funding is maintained, but also that parks are not always organized parks. Sometimes they're conservation areas and green spaces and held for future planning.
Thank you for that, Susan. Not seeing any other questions coming in from our attendees, I would take the opportunity to let the attendees know that this meeting will be recorded and posted to our website so that residents can view it at a later date and become more familiar with our budget. And also to say that there are a couple of opportunities in addition to these meetings to provide input on the budget to the board. One of which has been open since October, and that's through PlaySpeak, where we have a series of questionnaires and discussions that the residents are encouraged to view and participate in if they so choose. And the opportunity always exists to provide direct comments to Talitha via email. And so if that's a really simple way to provide that, those comments. Is looking at our directors that are in attendance, does anybody want to make any comments or offer anything up here before we wrap this up? Seeing none. Well, I would like to thank the attendees who came to hear this budget presentation today. Thank all of our directors for participating and our staff, and Chair Stone would like to encourage everyone to watch our Corporate Services Committee meetings to see the process in more detail. Thank you, Chair Stone. I was remiss to mention that on our website and under the finance section, for the 2021 draft budget page, you will find a schedule that shows all of the upcoming meetings where budgets will be deliberated and discussed by our committee. And would encourage the public to tune into those. They are always exciting. Once again, thank you everyone, and have a wonderful evening wherever you are.
Thank you, Chris. Good night.
You also.
Great job, everybody.
Well, good night.